Well, graduates. Um, so tonight's topic, we're going to talk about going where you don't belong. Have you ever gone places and you felt like you stuck out like a sore thumb? Like you were being looked at everywhere you went? That kind of feeling tells you that you're releasing some social triggers that doesn't quite fit with the scenario that you are attending. It may be that you look particularly unique. It could be something as simple as you are the only black person in the room, or it could be that you are dressed in a different kind of way in comparison to everyone else. And the looks and the stares that you get may not necessarily be negative, but maybe attention that's caused from intrigue. That sense of unbelonging is not necessarily something that you should shy away from. In fact, that is something that challenges the norms of any environment that you're in, because boundaries sometimes are meant to be pushed. However, it is very different from when you turn up uninvited as a guest to a party. And you end up feeling, in a sense, marginalized because you have no companion in that environment. I'm sure you've heard the saying, three's a crowd. And certainly nobody wants to be the hanging extra. But your sensitivity to these responses shows that you are, in fact, being quite observant. And by recognizing your displacement, you are forced to adapt in order to fit in, or you're given the opportunity to exit the scenario. If you are in fact able to adapt to a situation in which you are the difference and are welcomed and accepted by the majority, this shows that you did in fact belong, but you needed a certain amount of time in order to become acclimatized, to climb the learning curve of all of the acceptable behaviors attached to that circle. If, however, you are inflexible, in other words, you are unable to adapt to this environment, this is when you end up with resistance. And in that situation, you definitely, truly do not belong. And probably shouldn't have gone there in the first place. Nobody wants to feel as though they don't belong. And creating an environment where everyone feels equal and accepted is not necessarily just about the host. Many times, the attendees can affect the atmosphere and the mood of a situation. And where a host has laid down an open invitation, it is clear that there is room for the dynamics of such a social exchange to evolve into whatever is necessary in order to take on board several different types of personalities and characters. So let's attach this to the behaviors on social media. There are several dynamics in terms of social media spaces that I think that it's important that audiences, followers, subscribers should be aware of. And by being aware of these, it will help you in terms of how you adapt or how you show out, whether or not you are invited. There are certain social media spaces that is dominated by a lead host. That lead host will provide you with the majority of the content, the opportunities for dialogue, and activities for interaction. Where there is a dominant host, it is expected that anyone who subscribes, follows, or watches the content of this host is prepared to accept the terms and conditions under which the host opened their social media space. A dominant host can set the mood, be it positively or negatively, and those that adhere to that social media space will likely follow on in terms of their own behavior as led by that dominant character. So if that social media personality is happy, the followers tend to be happy too. If that social media personality is sad, the followers equally feel that sadness. And likewise, if that social media personality is angry, the followers also feel angered. But does this mean that the social media host is the only person that can affect the atmosphere of that page? No. In fact, the followers have every opportunity to impact on what is delivered in that space. In other words, they have got the power in order to affect how a social media personality reacts. There are several things at play here, purely on the basis of the fact that the social media host is also human, and certainly not immune to human characteristics. Emotions ebb and flow, not just on the basis of what occurs on social media, but what also takes place in the outside world. And often it takes a single comment to trigger a reaction that was unexpected. At least, certainly by the majority, but not necessarily by the person who makes the comment. In many instances, this is why many social media hosts decide to disengage with the communities that they have actually built. By doing so, they distance themselves from any emotional impact of the comments made by such followers in order to prevent an unnecessary or an over-the-top response that may have triggered emotional trauma or upset that's taking place beyond a social media page. There is a reason why such spaces are regarded as virtual reality. Virtual, as in it is a computer-generated environment with scenes and objects that appear to give an impression of realness. That reality is about making the user feel as if they're immersed in their surroundings. So, for example, when you're listening to a podcast, it's almost as though you are listening to somebody speaking to you through the phone or somebody who sat across from you at a table. It feels almost like an intimate conversation where you are having access to that social media personality on a one-to-one basis. But in reality, they are thousands of miles away from you and physically unreachable. However, the emotions that you feel in that dialogue are real. And in both the instance of the host and the user, you will interact on an emotional level. And where those feelings are positive, it's wonderful. Where those feelings are negative, it leads to huge frustrations that will result in people acting out of character. Now, it is never normally the intention of somebody to follow a social media host in order to irritate the environment that they're in. Not normally. But there are certainly those followers who go out of their way to ensure that wherever they go, they intend to upset the atmosphere, particularly in a space where there is a dominant character. Often, their targeted behavior is as a result of some deep-seated, deep-rooted, envious behavior. And that envy and jealousy often comes from seeing or hearing that which they are unable to achieve. They will despise you for your creativity. They will despise you for your voice. They will despise you for your numbers. They will despise you for the commentary in terms of people interacting with you when they are in fact isolated, lonely people. They will despise you for the simplest things, down to the graphics and the fonts that you use on your page, purely because they haven't got access to it and they have no knowledge of how to even deliver such. They will despise you for the simplest things, including whoever calls your name or recommends you, who gives you a forward, who bigs you up. All of that will create such enmity around a social media host where they are clearly making strides on their platform. And often their envious and bitter nature will be displayed, particularly when you come across opposing views or perspectives on a topic presented by the host. So instead of respectfully disagreeing, they will come out with an attack and seek to find some personal thing to tear the host down with. This is where in social media your back has to be broad as Goliath. Because out of the hundreds, the thousands, or the hundreds of thousands, there is always that tiny percentage that will prick at you in order to burst your bubble of satisfaction and joy in that social media space. Every dominant host of a social media space has to learn that resilience. It is a learning curve for everybody. There are no exceptions. However, within such a learning curve, the socially dominant character may decide to be apologetic for their ill-fated reactions due to these miscreants that insist on causing turmoil in their comments. But on reflection, Such an apology is really only on a superficial level, for the simple reason that you are trying to comfort and appease those who look up to you for your content and your happier side. But really, deep down, there is no apology towards the persons who caused the upset in the first place. Because as far as the social host is concerned, that attack warranted a response that would silence them permanently. So while you may not be sorry for the clapback that was deserved, you may be sorry for how it portrayed you towards those followers who looked up to you or respected you for being on a different standard. You may in fact feel their disappointment, and their letdown may in fact affect how you go forward. But it is important to note this. There are many times things given to the followers that are ignored because they prefer to see the best version of the person that they follow. When the social media host presents honesty and states openly that they are in fact all of this, it is many times not believed until it is displayed. Very different to a social media host or personality who comes out and says they are none of these things, and then when the heat gets too high in the kitchen, they explode and show you that they are in fact all of this and more. But either way you take it, there is such a thing as social responsibility. And we as dominant social media hosts of a platform have got that responsibility to ensure that our audience feels comfortable, that our audience feels as though they belong, that they are a part of a unique family where each and every one are accepted and able to voice their feedback and their opinions freely and respectfully. So we as the dominant social media personality have got to adapt in order to facilitate this kind of ambiance to our page. We have to think outside of the box and decide not to be human, to interact less with our followers, which is a shame, to give less of ourselves personally in order to avoid conflict and contradiction, to ignore in perpetuity the minority that upsets or rocks the boat for the majority. Easier said than done, but over time, most dominant social media hosts eventually become very adept at this. As they become experts at ignoring, they also decide that it's probably best to distance oneself completely from their audience. It leads to an impersonal page. And as people become more and more aware of the fact that this personality is unreachable, they will feel a sense of loss and dissatisfaction from the original setup of such an interactive platform. Hence the reason why, as people become more and more popular, their communication shuts down with the masses. For fear of misinformation and offense, manipulation and upset, which may result in some uncouth clapback, which will once again let down everybody else. Certainly in this space of Head Teacher K Speaks, I do not wish to create an environment where my followers do not feel welcome, my subscribers do not feel free to express and to communicate respectfully. I want that to exist because I want to create an environment of free thinkers, not ones that are dominated by my own thoughts and my own perspectives, but where I may pose an argument or pose a situation and you have got your own thoughts you wish to bring to the table. This does not mean that I will have any tolerance for disrespect. But what I will promise to do from this day onwards is that should that take place, I will not hesitate to block and delete such people who come to my space and disrupt the flow and the energy that is enjoyed by everyone else. Because those are the people who in fact do not belong. Many times my subscribers and followers present different opposing opinions to mine. I accept them because they are presented in a respectful way. They do not seek to come into the space that is provided by a dominant host in order to undermine or disrespect either myself or the other users of the platform. So, where I have failed to ignore or failed not to react, it is important that I ensure that the balance is restored to the environment that I seek to set. And by removing such content, it is important that it is noted that I'm doing this out of respect for the majority of the people who follow this platform for the value that it adds to their lives. This is about me recognizing those warning signs of individuals who in fact do not contribute to the atmosphere which I am trying to create on this page. And not about reckless snobbery or deliberate exclusion of any and any person. It really is about the energy that you bring to the platform as much as the energy that I present. From this day forth, if the energy does not fit, the energy will have to go. Because what I will no longer allow is for such individuals to enter into my social media space that I've created in order to interact with like-minded people. I won't allow them to come here and totally destroy what has been built and built so well. They are the ones who in fact have failed to adapt and are the ones who were in fact not invited to the party but turned up and decided that they were never going to play by the rules. And that's absolutely fine, but it's certainly not fit or appropriate for this space. The interaction between host and followers or subscribers is about understanding social dynamics. And there are definitely some people who are unable to acquire the right social skills because they have not been exposed to such environments in their own lives. They are used to being loud, rambunctious, contradictory, contrary, unsettling in their views, disrespectful in their tone, and it's the norm from where they come from. And because such a norm for them has gone unchallenged in other spaces, they think that they can carry on this kind of behavior anywhere they go. So that which is in their physical reality manifests in virtual circumstances. It truly isn't the job of Head Teacher K Speaks to actually form and mold these people into being what they're not. You are free to be yourself, but know where you belong. Know how you fit. And if you are not willing to adapt to the environment set within a social media platform, there are many other social media platforms where you can fit comfortably without resistance. And this should be done without any hard feelings at all. Because in fact, virtual reality is not your physical world. And choosing to move on or being removed from a page is not the end of your life. So yes, even Head Teacher K learns from situations as they occur, like every other graduate in this class. And one thing is for certain that I own responsibility for is that I own that I can deeply affect those who follow me. And that my moods and my handlings of situations can result in positive or negative repercussions. And because I have a duty of care to my subscribers, to those of you who are here for the knowledge, for the discussion, for those of you who are truth and knowledge seekers, I have to ensure that I adapt in order to make you welcome and comfortable. So while this is not an apology, this is certainly a promise that I will ensure that before I allow this minority to ruffle my feathers or rock the boat of a platform that you have enjoyed for so many months, I would rather shut them down and remove them so that you can carry on doing exactly that. They will simply have no space and no voice. And they will certainly never have another moment of my time. Right now, this is about focusing on you, my subscribers, focusing on what you would like this space to be. Because the relationship between a dominant host of a social media space and the subscribers or followers is a two-way street. And while I know that there are rebels amongst us who truly enjoy to see when somebody stands up for themselves in the most aggressive way, because you think it's deserving, because you are aware that there is an injustice taking place, and you're aware that there are people who are deliberately setting about to create chaos and confusion through their commentary, I know the silent others would rather it not be this way, would rather there be a different type of response. Because simply put, there's enough of this all over social media. And many of you come here for a difference. So I am not going to give you something that you do not want. But brace yourself, my graduates, because as I take this new approach, understand that there are going to be many who have been removed who will not appreciate their silencing and will enter out into the world of social media filled with bile, ready to tear me down at any opportunity because they are no longer able to voice their disruption on this space. In fact, unsurprisingly, it has already begun. But I simply laugh in the face of such adversaries because they are in fact not adversaries. They will have no impact and make no difference, and are easily replaced for the simple reason that this class is about people who are in fact free thinkers, and free thinkers will not go on the basis of the noise of others that bring confusion. They will go if they feel they are not being nourished with the information that they are presented with. And for that, I am so thankful, graduates. For each time they think they have won, the numbers climb. And that tells me something, that the audience out there actually want something different. And they're able to get it right here on this page. This page will be unique in that it is about people who are willing to explore alternate perspectives on current and trending topics. It is about people with an open mind who can see multiple sides of an argument. It is about people who are willing to think deeper, or to try to think deeper, whether or not they were formally educated beyond a primary level. This is about a space where people can inquire and question, interrogate, and ask all the things that are unaskable on other pages. We are the set of people who will look at any social media personality's display of behavior and decide whether or not we agree with it, regardless of how much we adore them. It is about creating a fair picture of everything that's taking place, despite our personal biases. And graduates, we have to accept that not everyone is capable of thinking like this. And because of this, we will often see it come to the fore when I touch on certain subjects. And we may have to say goodbye along the way. But it does not mean that we are not free to come and go as we please. It just means that instead of coming or going with a noise and a bang, we simply say goodbye on mutual grounds of respect. So this is Head Teacher K's promise to you guys. No more of that. Now on with the show. This is your girl, Head Teacher K.